Okay, hey guys, and thanks for coming back to week 30 on the Underwater Realm video blog. This week we're going to be going into a little bit more depth on the underwater LED lighting system we've been making and answering some of your questions from last week's blog. Now, you might notice I'm a little bit dark this week. That's because I want to show you the ambient light level in the room I'm in at the moment. Now, there's barely any daylight left at all, and the only light in the room really is coming from computer monitors. What I'm going to ask now is for Eve to switch on the LED lighting system. And you get an idea of the sort of light it's kicking out and the sort of quality of light that it's kicking out as well. Now, when I say the underwater lighting system, I'm not talking about two heads with 8 lamps apiece that we discussed last week. I'm not even talking about one of these heads with 8 lamps. This is one single solitary lamp, and this is 4 foot long. This is the same one that I threw over the back of the sofa last week. It's a little bit blue. I think this is coming out about 6100 Kelvin. We're going to bring it back to 5500 with the order that's coming in next week. But that's giving a really, really nice soft light already, and it's only going to get softer as we add more lights. Now, the camera settings, because I know that's going to be the first thing people are going to be asking, we're on a Canon 7D at the moment. We're shooting at 2.8 on a 70-200 L series lens, and we're at 50th of a second shutter, 25 frames per second, so 180 degree shutter angle. And the big question, of course, everybody's going to be asking is what ISO are you using? But we're on an ISO 250 here, so right down the low end of the scale, and I think you'll agree it's giving us a really, really nice level of illumination. So, to answer a few questions, first of all, one of the most popular has been how are we going to mount this to any kind of a light stand. So what we've done, rather than the Kino option, which is kind of like a plastic mount as standard, or you could upgrade then to a steel mount, we've gone for something called a baby plate. Now, baby plates are used in the industry where you can't get a light stand, you want to bolt something to a wall or a ceiling or the floor to have like a kind of permanent spigot to mount a light to. And it usually looks like a 3.5 or 3x5 steel plate with a 16mm spigot stuck straight out the center of it. And they're fairly cheap and fairly easily available. But what we wanted was something that gives us a little bit more flexibility. So we've actually tracked down a product called a baby plate with a 16mm swivel spigot. Try saying that on phone calls pretty quick, but we've tracked down a couple of these things in the UK. And what it basically is, it's a 16mm spigot with a ball and socket joint that's then mounted to your 3x5 plate. So what you can do is you just mount it into your light stand, slacken it off, point the light wherever you like, and tighten it back up again, and it's locked tight from that point. So you can point it wherever you like, and it's a really, really flexible option, and it's worth its weight in gold. They're really difficult to track down. You'd be looking at B&H in the States. There's a couple of places in Australia. In the UK, they're really, really difficult to get hold of. We actually bought the last one from Calumet Photographic, and have been trawling other stores to try and find a second for our second head. We have found a company. They're called AC Lighting. If you track them down, I think they've got about 9 left. If not, you're going to be looking at Manfrotto. Towards the end of the year, they're going to be getting some more in from Italy. Now, it's an F810. It's an Avenger F810 by Manfrotto is the product you're looking for, and it works a treat. So now that we've got the light mounted up, what we've got to do is we've got to check through all the waterproofing before next week's big underwater test shoot. So first of all, we start with the battery packs. Now, the batteries we mounted inside these Peli cases. These are Peli, I believe they're 1520s. Nice big bright orange ones that we found on eBay because we wanted them to be high vis, easy to see underwater, and easily distinguished from the rest of the equipment that we're going to have on set, so that people aren't opening them and looking for cameras, lenses, this sort of thing. Unfortunately, these things, it's a bit of a long story, but they've been a catastrophic failure. I've always been educated that the Peli cases are waterproof, at least down to about a metre for 30 minutes. But these, we put them in the bath, water level about 2 inches above the seal, and it's just chucking bubbles all over the place and letting water right in. So we've been really, really disappointed with those. We've checked the O-rings, cleaned everything out, and they're still leaking quite horrendously. So I'm really, really disappointed with Peli on these ones. We're going to be looking for some answers, some solutions. I know the more modern Peli cases are perhaps built to a higher tolerance with better valves and stuff, so we will see. But for now, our batteries are certainly not watertight to any kind of depth. So what we've done is we've actually mounted floats to these, and in order to go and depth test our lamps, we've mounted floats, and we've been towing these out on the surface with a cable going down to the lights. And we had quite a catastrophic first test where one of the lights sprung a leak, but having sought the advice of some local dive companies, we've mounted rubber seals inside the tubes as well as outside the tube, so we've kind of got a double protection system, and then used a different adhesive to get our protective caps over the end. We now want to test this thing at serious depth. So what we did is we looked for the next high tide, which was actually midnight last night, and we mounted the light on its framework and mounted a GoPro camera looking down at the light so we could see what was going on, and we lowered it down to 10 meters, and It was quite interesting results. We saw some very, very murky water. It actually illuminated a huge area of the sea straight off the end of the harbour and confused a hell of a lot of fishermen. But you can see we had a couple of little visitors inspecting the light there at 10 metres as well. But we left it down for 5 minutes and it came back up clean as a whistle, no problems whatsoever. So we're really, really happy with that. And we're off to Chepstow tomorrow to test the whole system down to about 30 metres depth. Again, that's not including the battery system. We have yet to come up with a solution for making those batteries submersible. So, moving forward, we're going to have all the rest of the lights arriving Wednesday, so that's 16 lights that we're then going to have to waterproof up and prep and get ready to go. We've got to sort out the battery system, and on Thursday we're actually going to Plymouth to a harbour and we're going to do our underwater test shoot. So this is going to be really, really exciting. This is going to be next week's blog. We've got 2 full systems, so we've got 16 times the amount of light that you're looking at here. We've also got a couple of spotlights that are going to be up on the surface shining down into the water. We've got a Canon 5D in an underwater housing. We've also got a Sony EX1 with a nano flash in an underwater housing. We're going to be doing a little bit of an underwater shootout to see first of all how the lights are reacting and also how the cameras deal with the colour palettes underwater there and what sort of space we've got in the grade to bring some of those skin tones back at depth. So it's going to be a really, really interesting one. We look forward to catching you next week on the Underwater Realm video blog. For now, I'm actually going to leave you with some archive footage that I found in my parents' loft. When discussing this lighting system, my dad went and pulled out some old 16mm footage from the BBC's Tomorrow's World show that was shot in 1978, when my dad developed the first diver propulsion vehicle, which you can see. It's crazy. It's a little bit like father, like son. It's my dad here playing with some underwater tech back in 1978.
How fast can you comfortably swim underwater? This man is a swimming instructor. He's very fit, and he manages to move along at about 2 miles an hour. Alan Reynolds, however, can swim underwater twice as fast with the help of this. It's an electric handheld sporting torpedo that he's developed himself. The power comes from 2 sealed 12-volt batteries that drive a small propeller at the back. The motor's set to pull him along at a steady 4 miles an hour. Any faster, and the water might rip off his mask. Steering is simple. You point it in the direction you want to go. And depth is no problem either. The hull of the torpedo is strong enough to operate down to 300 feet. But it isn't only for underwater. Here in the Swansea Leisure Centre, the wave maker is working flat out, creating a typically choppy sea. And the machine is coping well, still pulling its inventor along. But the real bonus is underwater. Normally, a swimmer with 1 cylinder of compressed air can stay down for 45 minutes. With the torpedo doing most of the work, he uses far less energy, and his cylinder will last twice as long. And for the sub-aqua swimmer, that means twice the fun.